Welcome, everybody. We are here, episode 5 of the quarantine film study, and we're going to talk a little different position. We know we've been a little quarterback heavy. We get it. We are coming off that. Today will be running backs. We're very excited to be joined by our guest, Matt Waldman, from the RSP, the Rookie Scouting Portfolio. And just got to tell my introduction story to Matt. So I just gotten onto Twitter and started asking around, hey, who are the respected voices in the space? And immediately people started flooding in. You got to go pay attention to Matt Waldman. So I did. He immediately got my attention because he has a process to his scouting that resembles something that I'm near and dear to me. And so we've had a dialogue and an engagement for better part of 5 years now, Matt. We've got a few going now.
Yeah.
And we push each other. And I think that's the fun part about this space when you find people that push each other. We got into one on a quarterback in this draft class that we're not quite eye to eye on just yet. He's hoping to bend me his way, and I'm hoping to bend him mine. That's just the nature of the beast, and we'll enjoy that as the process continues. But Matt, I want people to hear a little bit today about the player that you've chosen, and particularly why this segment of plays against this difficult situation that you put this player in. What was attractive to you about this study?
Well, I think that most people who follow the Rookie Scouting Portfolio know that I've been a big Nick Chubb fan. So it would be fun to be able to talk about why he's a special running back. Oftentimes, I think people see him and they think of a player that he's kind of a bruiser with straight line speed, someone who, may not be as dynamic of a player, especially when you think of comparing him to a player like Saquon Barkley or Ezekiel Elliott, someone who's got that size and speed, but also that real great lateral agility and footwork. And so I thought it'd be fun with the Browns changing to an offense where they're going to run a lot more outside zone. They're going to use him more from the backfield in a way where Baker Mayfield's going to be under center. That we should take a look at some plays where he's facing stacked boxes or boxes of at least 7 defenders or more, and seeing what he does right on plays where he gets a chance to run downhill, make decisions as a zone player or a duo player, or even choices that he makes on some gap plays that are a little more creative, and show what he does in terms of vision, the vision footwork kind of union that has to be there for a running back, and all of the kind of the body movements, like the very small micro movements of a player that help him break tackles and hit creases. And with Chubb, you really get a chance to see a player who you can see what his eyes are looking at very well and what he ends up doing off of that. So he's an extremely instructive player for the running back position to show that it's more than just instincts.
Love it. Now, we used a tool called telemetry to make this cut up. Just want to give them a shout out. Fantastic resource using the next gen player tracking data. And again, we were able to get to, so again, quarterback under center runs of 4 yards or more against stacked boxes. We got to that cut. What was it, Matt? About 60 seconds, maybe less?
Yeah, it was crazy.
And then we were even able to tag a few plays at the end of this. We're actually going to see his new head coach. We went and looked and pulled a few plays from the Minnesota season last year that we hope can be informative of how Nick might plug into the system. So this one, even that will have a little fantasy tilt to it, as we'll be able to talk and project into a scheme and a role this year. But as always, we need to say thank you to the NFL for offering up the Game Pass tool to everybody. They've made that free through May 31st. Please go check that out. Links in the description. Again, as well as telemetry. But let's talk Nick Chubb. Let's talk football here. For those of you following along, what we've done here, because this is a cut up and not a straight game flow, we've actually added the game situation, what have you, down in distance, all at the bottom of the screen here. So we've got a week 2 game there against the Jets. It's a first quarter situation. And so again, with some of the side copies, we may be a bit faster and give you a bit more from the back copy. But again, looking at Nick succeeding against stacked boxes.
And this is a fun play because right off the bat,
excuse me for a second, right off the bat, you're going to see, they motion the H-back to one side, and then they're going to run what looks like to me like a kind of like a counter play that's going to have, you're going to have your backside puller, number 86, and then you're going to have a guard that's going to pull to that front side. And when we watch that, Chubb is actually going to cut back on the play, and you usually don't see cutbacks on gap plays. It's usually not recommended, but this is a guy with the creativity to read the situation, and then also the athletic ability to find the crease. So let's watch this.
And one of the things we talk about, the reason why we picked the stack box is just the count that we're seeing here. You got 4 on the line of scrimmage, 4 behind. But particularly of interest when looking at running backs is this side here where we got 5 defenders to the right-hand side. Again, guys, I will get better at drawing boxes. It didn't happen this week, but I promise I'll get you there.
It looked pretty good to me.
Rhombus style. We got a rhombus going. And we got 3 over here on this side. And those kind of things will be what helps dictate quarterbacks and decision of run flow, but also some of the running back processing. So just things to look at us at here. And so Nick actually has to start with a run concept designed to go into that 5-man surface defensively.
Yeah. So if you stop it about right here, well, we can go back to, maybe right after the exchange. Like let's take it back to at the exchange point, because that's where probably right here is going to be his initial point reading. And obviously the microphone or camera's in the way of his eyes, but you can see where his body's tilted, and you can see he's assessing the situation. You can see that the push that the line got, that the Ravis Rhombus got over on that right-hand side, he realizes right there he has nothing there, and he's going to have to bend that. But let's see if we can advance it 1 step or 2 steps. See how he still keeps moving towards that side. So it's not like he's immediately trying to cut back. He wants to keep the defenders who are unblocked in that area so that he can keep them there and he can open up that backside lane. So even though he assesses the situation early on, he continues running in that direction. And that's the mark of a guy who really understands how to set up blocks, how to set up backside creases, and who is a mark of a good inside runner, meaning that he can get up on the bodies of players and keep his feet. And I bet he probably adjusted his feet a little bit on that play, coming back here to take a shorter step. Yeah, he took a couple shorter steps there, but still in the same direction of those blockers. And you'll see a lot of inexperienced backs where they'll run up into their blockers too fast, or they will immediately try and head downhill, and then the backside defenders are able to get to them, or these defenders at the players who are unblocked on the Ravis Rhombus side here can kind of flow back into the play and head them off at the pass. But he ensures that he's acting like he's heading towards where the play is supposed to be, and it makes the defenders play out their assignment, and then he finds that nice crease.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They needed to occupy this linebacker here. They needed to get him fully over the top. That's what allows this guy to come and seal behind that. And then again, you're hoping your left tackle gets that second level block. That is a difficult one. And then they left this guy unblocked backside, and that's Nick's man to beat through that lane as this thing opens up. Yeah, and right there is where I wanted to take it off the slow play and just look at that one, that when he puts his foot in the ground off that right foot and accelerates, I believe that's Basham there, 93, boom, right past him.
Yes.
And now he's up to that next level.
And that's the most underrated part of Nick Chubb's game, I think people didn't realize, is how sudden he can really be off of that first cut downhill. So, yeah, excellent work.
It helps when you compare, again, that good decision-making with that ability to manipulate and then that acceleration. That combination gets to be really impactful here.
Yeah.
So just to take a look here, again, we're going to see a run into the boundary, which can be difficult because there's less space. Again, they're on this hash, so there's less room this way than there is to what they call the field. Again, for those who don't know, this side out here with more green grass, they'll call the field versus the boundary. So we've got a run into the boundary here. And obviously,
yeah,
for a touchdown from 20-plus yards out, pretty effective one.
Yeah, I mean, it's that acceleration once again, just to be able to come out of that first change of direction and then bend in the second level. So as we watch him,
we wanted to look at here is again the count and how everything's gapped out. Yeah. So one of the things I look for, Matt, I'm interested in your take on it, is I'm always interested in what we used to call defensively as the bubble. I know a lot of offensive guys use some similar terminology, but this gap right now, we've got color in it. This gap right now, we've got color in it. This is what we would determine as the bubble, because this player is off the line, right? And they have to actually get in there and insert. So a lot of the run decision-making is going to be dependent on where's the bubble, where's the initial path, and then can everybody execute their blocks within that to give you a chance. So most likely, I think it's Cashman here. It's going to be a primary read for Nick on this play. So again, just kind of slow playing it here to give you guys a look. Leonard Williams gets himself reached here real fast. So obviously that gives him some green grass to work in. But you've got an edge setter out here who's coming down. You're getting some knockback from this play. So this right here, to me, is the big matchup left for Chubb to really be assessing.
Yeah, that's the leverage point he's aiming for right there. And what's great about it is, once again, that whole pressing to that leverage point allows him to beat number 46 at that second level, because he stays committed to the process of what the play's asking him to do. So he's playing out that side. You can see where he's watching. Yeah, I mean, as he's taking the exchange, he's looking at 93. He's looking at, he probably briefly feels the colors to the outside, but then he's keyed on number 53. And as he bends downhill, I mean, he's still going to take a couple more steps to that, just straight downhill. And you can see a really nice bend with his body. And even though his pads look kind of up here, look at that lean he has with his body. I mean, he has that permanent kind of downhill, alignment with his body, and he runs compact, but it also allows him, in terms of with his hips, with that step here, it's a pretty wide step that he cuts downhill through. And then that second bend, and you see the toe point there. So you see kind of the flexibility of the hips, where once he gets downhill and then he makes that step right there at nearly about the 20, that toe points. And it's kind of the way that a receiver or a defensive end or or a running back, when they can change direction like that and open up their hips in a way where they can bend around, and do it at a top speed. That's why these guys are so effective at being able to generate big plays from different angles, whether it's a running back, a defensive end, or a wide receiver on a speed break or whatever. So, it's that staying disciplined to that end. And this is where, I think people saw Frank Gore and said, he's kind of a Frank, or they saw Nick Chubb and said, he's kind of a Frank Gore-like back, but he's kind of Frank Gore back with turbo boosters.
Not a bad combination to have right there.
Yeah, not a bad combination at all. And what made Gore such a great player was that he can really create with a limited amount of things happening in his favor, but he could also be a player that he would make sure that he would stay true to the intent of the play until the very last moment.
Well, that intent of the play, you talked about this. You mentioned 46 before. I just have to bring it back to this point, because when you look pre-snap, when we're talking about guys that are head up, Hewitt's a slight inside shade here relative to the hash, again, using that as our landmark. But again, watch the flow, that his trajectory. So when he stays on his path, so we'll talk about running backs, you'll hear terminology like pressing his read, or staying true to his path, or what have you. And you mentioned this before, as Chubb presses this thing to the inside hip of the tight end, in terms of an initial aiming point, he stays on it. Watch what that does to 46 in terms of, he feels like he has to flow to match that angle, and what that does to create that opportunity to work it, first get him blocked and then work past him.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. It's an excellent point. And it's one of those things that, too, when you stay stay true to a guy like that, and you are you're doing those things, it not only helps you generate big plays, but it's also why it limits the bad plays. Like, maybe he'll have losses of 1 to 2 yards or short gainers, but it's more of a product of what the defense did against the offensive line, as opposed to him creating a situation where he left yards on the field. And so you get a player who not only is a big play runner, but also a guy who gets you what the team expects. And when you have that combination, every coach wants that player on the field as much as possible.
There's no doubt. So now we get them again. All these are going to be under center, but we go start by 2x2, have a motion in here. And we're going to see his ability to adjust after this outside in. So people are going to call that a wham block.
Yeah.
Creates a pile in the backfield and just an impressive way to create after the play.
Yeah. And that initial cut from the wham block, just behind Landry, I think it's Landry who wham blocks here. You're going to watch him make this really sharp jump stop right there. Yeah. I mean, look at how he opens his hips. If we can freeze that somehow and just see, yeah, right there. I mean, look how wide, and look at the toe point there and how wide the feet are apart, how open his hips are to be able to make that move. And he did it within an instant of, I mean, I don't think he covers more than a yard from where he's handed that ball.
We're on the 40 right now. And within 1 yard, moving forward on the 40, he's seen this, and boom, he has opened up fully, toe pointed out inside of that yard.
And he's able, and because he did it as a jump stop, he's able to explode off of that back foot a little bit in a way that what you'll see, and I'm going to give a contrast, a player who's really improved over the years is Kenyon Drake. But Kenyon Drake, on that kind of a jump cut right there, he would have jumped about 2 yards to 3 yards and would have not been able to clear Jarvis Landry here. He would have been eaten alive by the defender, basically knocking Landry back into him if it were Kenyon Drake running that play a few years ago. What he's learned is what exactly Nick Chubb does. Arian Foster was a master at this, is just being able to open up those hips with one step and then be able to go. But Chubb adds a little jump stop to it so that he can really explode through it. And then he gets his feet over Landry's legs and he runs. One of the things he does so well is he runs with his knees high. Like when he has people reaching for his ankles and his feet, you see him get the knees up, and to be able to do that from a crouch, and it just shows his incredible flexibility, and as well as just his crisp footwork and balance. And Saquon Barkley makes some of the prettiest cuts you're ever going to see, some of the most dynamic things, but he's like the, he's kind of like the, if we were talking about like assassins, with the football, he'd probably be the one that would walk into the bar and yell at everybody to challenge him, or take everybody out in a noisy, glorious, Tarantino-esque fashion. And I think that you look at Nick Chubb, and he's kind of that quiet assassin who his game, when you really look at it closely, it screams dynamic, but off the cuff, some people miss that.
So I wanted to pause it here because we often talk about decision.
Oh, I love this.
We often talk about decision making and the feel that guys have. And some guys have it and some guys don't, because I got to imagine most people are going to look at this and they're going to see this. And they're going to say that is the optimal scenario to get downhill. And I can understand that thought process. But that's not where Nick goes. And I'm interested in your take on this, because right now he's got 2 defenders and 1 blocker on a 2-way go. And he's got to determine optimal strategy here.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you brought this up because I noticed this too. And my buddy Jay Moyer, who writes for me at the RSP, who's been a running back coach or an offensive line coach and run game coach in high school for many years, he did a really great video about J.K. Dobbins for Chris Harris's podcast and brought this exact point up. And what it really is when you're bouncing a play outside, you want to keep these defenders here, kind of thinking that you might threaten the inside just a little bit when your plan all along is to bounce it outside. And I think that's what he does on this play. I think he gives a little bit of a dip and nod to respect the possible inside look there so that he can hold that unblocked defender inside, because that's where he already is. And then he has the confidence knowing that he can work around this.
And part of it is just the matchups. Would you rather be against a third level player, a defensive back in the open field, or would you rather be against an engaged line of scrimmage defender?
Yes.
To me, it seems like the smart decision is to beat that guy outside of his face and go from there. Now, again, I can understand someone that says, no, get it inside right now, but I'm not marking Chubb down for taking his chances against a guy who's engaged in a block.
Yes, and I think part of that whole marking down or keeping whole process comes down to watching a series of plays and tape and decisions with him, because there are some backs who don't understand what their physical resources and limitations are, and there are other backs who know exactly who they are. And I think Nick Chubb, if you watch him enough, you begin to get a feel that he knows exactly who he is. And when he sees a player in that position, he knows who he can beat and who he can't. And obviously, we're going to see a play. There'll probably be a play this year on last year's tape or next year or whenever we see him again playing, where you may see him underestimate a rookie defender who has awesome speed, or there's going to be exceptions to that rule. But more often than not, you're going to see, enough of his runs where he makes these calls because he understands who he is. And you have to, and I think if you incorporate that into your study, you end up with a better feel for who that player is and whether he's a solid decision maker or he's one who takes too many risks.
And then again, these plays and the teachable moments are the scouting discussion moments. I got another one. We haven't finished. So we've got pressing reads. We've got his ability to avoid and create outside of that structure because of the way that wham block came together. We have two-way goes and decision-making. And then I got to point out contact balance.
Oh, God, yes.
Because look, again, we have a player who is, working himself to the sideline. We are on a more 45-degree trajectory, but his shoulder pads are turned upfield. He's preparing for contact. And he's going to have a defender attack his hip. Right at his hip. And there's not a lot of surface area left because of body lean by Chubb. But again, Chubb's leaning.
Yeah.
This foot does not look to be an optimal place. Most human beings would slide, right? I mean, you're starting a slide essentially here. Your legs are being cut out. You would be knocked out of bounds here. And not only does he gather himself, but then he tiptoes himself up the sideline for another 2 yards to follow that.
I love that. And let's play it back to where you kind of paused it, where he's in the air right here. Now, I'm going to remind some people of something here. If you are a Georgia fan or a Nick Chubb fan, this is the exact angle, I think, that he took a kickoff and tore his PCL, LCL, and MCL at Georgia on a kick return to the left side of the field, doing exactly this. And why that's important is that my buddy, Dr. Gene Bramwell over at Football Guys, when I was studying Chubb, and I asked him about those surgeries and how they sew that up. And he said, it's very unusual for a player to ever have that knee in a situation where it's tight enough or it's either too tight or too loose, the way the doctors sew it up. It's a very difficult injury to come back from. And not only did he come back from it, but he came back from it in unbelievable time. And his first game back against North Carolina, he touched the ball. I believe he carried the ball 32 times against North Carolina. And during that season, he had a sprained ankle. But, you look at his tape and you see him make plays like this. And that's a guy who's confident from the surgery that he had. That's a guy who's fully rehabbed. And then you can remark about what you just did, Dan, about his balance, about his willingness to attack and lean in. You see his hand kind of on the back of the defender here, as that defender's diving. This is someone that the thing that's really, if you want to call it instinctive, it probably is. But what running backs do so well is these small movements. And it's that ability to just kind of not only make these small little adjustments, but it's also to spot that situation so quickly that they can really anticipate that movement well, and then be pinpoint with how they place their hands and use their feet.
We talk a lot about mileage with a running back. It's a big discussion point for people because they're going to have carries. Carries lead to contact. Contact wears on a body. I'm always trying to pay attention to it. A running back can reduce contact with how they engage, how they attack, angles, the decisions that they make, their ability to control their body. And those little nuanced things from Chubb show me that he's going to find ways to reduce contact, keep defenders from getting a strong, straight up, standard teaching tackle on him, force him into scenarios where it is more arm tackles, lunging at him, what have you, which is, again, really impressive and hopefully speaks to his longevity in the NFL.
For sure. And I'll even add another player, Jamal Charles was a player like that at a much smaller size. One of the things that also I like about players who can carry the load is that they're the aggressor. And that means that they can dictate the contact. And if you're the one delivering the contact first, usually it means that the contact that you receive is going to be less damaging to you in the long run because you're the one delivering the blow.
Absolutely. So now we're going to see Chubb with 6 Baltimore defenders on the line of scrimmage pre-snap. And again, another one will be good for the end copy to look at. Looks like primarily decision making.
Yeah, and this is a nice one where you really get a great chance to see his eyes and what he's looking at here, because we'll roll it and you'll see pretty much at the exchange point what he's looking at.
So again, depending on how Baltimore's matching this up, but from color, all of these gaps are covered. Again, this backer's got one of the two. One of these guys is going to fit and be the secondary player, but doesn't look like an effective run play to start out.
No, not at all. And you see the double team go up to that middle linebacker here, 79 working up. And so that's kind of where he's already kind of keen on that point. And then right here, what I like about that is he sees that crease, but he reads the leverage of, it looks like 88 onto the defender in space right here. And he's trying to figure out a way, how do I keep that defender here and squeeze behind number 88? And you can see him actually end up doing that, kind of just dipping in, and how tight he works against that lineman there that you just drew the arrow to. Watch how tight he gets to kind of, scrape along the back of him.
And to your point, we had a guest on recently was talking about the idea of judo, use their force against them. And that's something that I'm looking at here that he's got a great feel for, because we have 2 blockers moving defenders in opposite directions. And he understands that blocking concept enough to know that, well, I want to go between those 2.
Yes.
And let that play out and then squeeze. But it's his ability to hug in here and keep his feet under him that really has my attention watching this play.
Absolutely. Because that little stick to the outside, just to continue to keep that defender. I mean, the defender obviously gets knocked down, but he's kind of setting that up so that he can stay clean and tight here to give himself any chance to work that. And obviously he's not afraid to just run into the body of his blocker, which, obviously I don't think any running back really is afraid to do that. They know they can get some friendly fire in there and push, and rather push against a guy who wants to go in the same direction as you than someone who doesn't. And Clinton Portis was really good at this too. That was another player, number 20 and number 26, who played, with Washington, with Denver, who was very good at staying tight to his blocks and be able to find and anticipate plays like this. He was very good on edge plays where he had a lead blocker and he had to squeeze through and really time how he hit a crease. And Portis is I think Portis got big enough that he was kind of Chubb size at one point, but he started off as a much smaller back.
So credit to Bitonio here, 75, being able to work first to second level and bump this player off to give Robinson a really good chance. Credit to Chubb for reading that, pressing that, knowing where to take that, and attacking that crease to turn that gain into that front. I mean, again, you have 6 in the line of scrimmage. That's not exactly how you're drawing up your run concepts.
No. And that's why running backs matter, because, I mean, listen, they can make a difference in terms of how they read and how they finish.
So we got them against the 7-man box here. They got 3 detached players pulling out. And again, it looks, again, we're running into the boundary. It's been something we've seen in a lot of these runs so far.
Yeah, and another nice cut downhill there.
We're going to see this a little differently with essentially the lead blocker here. But again, just looking at the way these things are gapped out, we're trying to look for advantage. We got a 0 nose here, who's going to be a play side A player. B gaps canceled, C gaps canceled, have another player right in. So it doesn't look optimal early on. It's really going to depend on which one of his blocks comes through, or the whole blocking scheme here, weak side, comes through, to see how this should be best executed.
Without a doubt. And this is the 3rd play we've seen with a lead blocker, which we're going to see a lot more of that, especially with a tight end in that Minnesota offense. So it's nice that his approach here is true enough within the first 2 to 3 steps to stay kind of on that outside track and force that linebacker or defensive back. Yeah, that gentleman right there, who's kind of, I don't know if I'd call him the force player, but maybe he is, like to kind of keep that, contain that outside, but he works all the way to that outside edge where number 88 is lead blocking, and then you just get the quick dip inside.
And so when you have a weak side series like this, this is the critical block, and they're looking for a reach here. They're looking to get outside of here and give him a chance to run through that gap. But what, again, impresses me in terms of his vision and his feel and his understanding of concepts is to know that if that doesn't get done, that this A gap may be there as long as his center executes, and they're looking to work this combo backside. Again, really impressive feel to find his way into the A gap.
Yeah, that's a great point. Because it's just natural. I mean, that's too quick and natural of a cut for him to be thinking about it or wondering. You're right. He has to feel that and know that that's going to be there.
Well, and if you look at 72, if you look at the right guard with the initial track, he looks good at first.
Yeah.
He doesn't get his hat across. I understand, but there's no color, right? There's no purple in the B gap. So a lot of running backs with a lead blocker with no purple in the B gap are going to be, they've already made their decision, right? They're pressing this thing and looking to go, and he feels this to feel like, well, my right tackle's losing ground all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Purple's now showing up and getting cross face. My only option is to get here because my backside blocker's got this done.
Yeah.
And immediately gets upfield.
And go back to that whole read point there, because when you talk about seeing purple, you ask running backs, what do they read? And some guys will say, I read helmets. Other guys go, I read the hips. Other guys are like, it's a combination of both. And I think Chubb is definitely a combination of both type of guy. And because you can see a little bit of the shoulder and the hip out there. And then once he makes that decision, you can see that the hips were all the way out there. It kind of gives you the argument that if you're solely reading helmets, you're probably not going to see color very well. This is a situation where you really want to be a little bit lower. And it also maybe, and this is probably a stretch on my end, but it just popped into my head and I'm thinking of it, is that when you have a runner who runs with a good crouch and kind of low, and that's what he does well, it kind of behooves you to probably be looking at, waist and torso height as opposed to looking at the head, because it reinforces your ability to stay low. And a good power runner, ability to drive and change direction and run through, reaches and wraps, is a part of that, is being able to have that low alignment. No,
and again, with the stature running backs these days and the crouched alignment, I'm right there with you in terms of that read point. And you have to, we do a little bit in the class about the difference between vision and processing. Processing is one of our critical factors. What we mean by that is something that's going to apply to every position, be important everywhere. And obviously with running back, vision dovetails a ton with that. But one of the places where you can see a difference between players that just see it and players that understand are the guys that understand concept, especially in these zone plays. They know where plan B and plan C are built in.
Yeah.
And you can feel from Chubb that he understands that. Look no further than the cross blocking we saw before. He felt the crease and stayed tight and hugged through it. Those kind of guys that have that feel for the concept because they understand that. Now when they process that information, they execute faster.
Yes. It's just like the quarterback who understands leverage and scheme, that it's just at that to the point. Use that phrase, and I always credit you with this phrase whenever I talk about it, but it's reacting to the point of instinct, or what was it that you've often used as the term?
Oh, for me, instincts is a proactive pattern, and
Right.
not looking for reactionary athleticism.
Right.
But players that are able to anticipate.
Yes. And there was another phrase you used, but but to me, it's like their understanding is so good of what they're doing, and they're so quick at reacting that it looks instinctual when it really isn't. And it's kind of like, to me, it's kind of like an actor hitting his mark and a line, so it sounds natural. And they're making it look like they're responding to what needs to go on here. But this is a great play coming up.
So one of the things, and this is one where I think actually the side copy kind of helps with the feel of this, is his ability to understand when to go north and south and to not mess around with that in his aiming points. Because again, he's going to stay on track. We're going to beat it. We're going to beat that drum, I imagine, through this whole cutup of his ability to press that. He's pressing his key, he's staying on that. But again, they've left the backside defender unblocked, which happens very often in these schemes because the idea is the running back is going to have to beat that player. But the path, their timing, their acceleration, but their path becomes so critical because if he flattens out, right, and he just starts working backwards, you bring that player into the play.
Yeah. And then you're forced into a situation where you see a lot of athletic guys do this, especially in college, where now they've done it and they've spun away from the backside defender, but now the safety's in the area or the linebacker's wheeling back to help out. And now he's having to deal with 2 to 3 different guys in a situation. You see often highlight tapes of terrific athletic prospects who don't have this kind of discipline, and people get really enticed by, look at him just break through all these players and he's just no match. And it's like, yeah, but he doesn't understand how he needs to stay on track with the play.
So 2 things. So if he falls off track, this backside linebacker will stay back. So if he starts cheating, start taking it down, this linebacker is never going to flow.
Right.
And then secondarily to that, if he comes too far back when he does cut, you're going to bring, I think it's 99, I think that's Judon in the play. So he has to do 2 things right with just angles, his path. He's got to force this enough, the linebacker flows. That's going to get him blocked by this linebacker. He's going to help this lineman execute this block, and then he has to make sure he beats the contained defender to the point.
Yes.
My Atlanta.
Yeah, yeah. And there's so much from a micro movement standpoint that's so good here. But let's just stick with the, he's even staying the track a little bit when he makes the cutback. He doesn't you can tell he wants to immediately turn outside, but he kind of takes another step or 2 downhill before he makes that turn, pulls through the wrap. And this is going to be so much fun. All right. The head up, watching that front side look. You can see really the front side here, the leverage there. He kind of sees that, and he's going to start kind of turning. Yeah. Then he's going to start turning back, within a couple of steps. And look at that cut. I mean, again, look how low he is. Look at how wide that front foot's coming out and the toe point there to get totally downhill. But then he's going to have to make another cut on top of that. And again, it's kind of a jump stop and turn. And then right here, downhill. I mean, downhill to set that up, get that backside defender sucked in. Number 99, Judon, it looks like, to get him kind of sucked in down the line, as well as, those 2 blocks there.
I'm just so impressed by him getting, I think it's on Wuasor here, this backside backer to crossface. Because Greg Robinson's not getting this done unless Chubb brings him across face.
Yeah.
Chubb brings him across face. Now, all of a sudden, Robinson and Bitonio got 2 for 2. And now, again, he's going to make a franchise player here.
Yeah.
Miss with that angle.
Yeah.
And we're going to make Earl Thomas miss. And then we're going to do one last cut here. Not done yet. One more.
And it's as impressive a cut as the first one downhill. I mean, and maybe more impressive because he has to go wide, but I think he uses a little bit of a straight arm there. I couldn't tell. Yeah, he kind of, that's the thing. When you can freeze where he gets his hand on the arm of Judon, if we get that right there, see where he places it? It's kind of like on the elbow and tricep. This is what you see with defensive linemen when they're great pass rushers. This is what you see with wide receivers when they're getting off press. The guys who have the ability to be pinpoint with aiming their hands and getting the position they need to move the defender's reach and to do it so quickly and in succession of movement, that vision, that aspect of vision is such an underrated quality because you have, the big plays come when you can make those little detailed moves like that. I mean, that completely turns around Judon because Judon thinks he's going to have a grip and then he loses leverage because of that. And then it allows Chubb to be able to just kind of turn through it. And then the high knees through a lot of this trash. You'll see little points where he gets his knees high.
Right here through this 2 DB combo.
Yeah.
Right there. Oh, and again, get him up.
Yep.
And that last cut. I mean, we might. Do we need any more plays to tell you Chubb's? We'll go through some more, but I don't know if we need any more to tell Chubb's story. Because to me, this is a multi-cut runner with discipline, athletic ability, flexion, acceleration, strength, hand-eye coordination, hand usage, and play. I mean, I don't know what's left.
Burst.
I mean, as you go through the checklist of the things that you want, yep. I mean, we're home. This plays Chubb's story.
This is what I hear Mark Schofield, our mutual friend, say. This is the put the pen down moment. And I'm stealing that, Mark, for a while. I'm going to be saying, but I'm going to credit you as much as possible. Is that this is the put the pen down moment when it comes to these things with Chubb.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. So after the put the pen down moment, we're going to keep going. We're here. We got time. We're going to keep going.
It's icing, man. This is icing on the cake.
And so now we're looking at a 9-man box. So this goes well.
Yeah.
They rotate the safety after the snap. Again, we're going
to look at
some lead blocking here.
Yeah.
This fold block here is a fascinating concept, and he's got to work his way off of that.
Yeah.
This is a big process in decision-making run. There's a lot of moving parts to this guy.
Oh, without a doubt here. Because you're following the front side, kind of the motion there, front side. You have these 2 double teams going up to the line, to the inside linebackers here.
Just to show everybody.
Yeah.
Now we've got Landry folding in.
Yeah. And he, again, stays true to the line until the very last moment, maximizing that movement by the defensive tackle on number 72.
To me, it's this cutoff of Bitonio here that really does speak to instincts. Like, that is just feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there is a place. I know I'm definitely in the camp of not a believer of the overuse of it, but there are just some things that are just straight up feel. And for him to feel 75 and cut around that's just fascinating.
Totally agree. Totally agree with that. I just go to the example. I just try to set the example. I mean, it is the difference between, I think it's the difference between good and great, as opposed to, but it's not the difference between someone who's an amateur and a professional, in a lot of cases. But yeah, I mean, just the way that,
I mean, he's so good at reading this and his decision making off of that. I mean, he's feeling cush, get pressed here. And all right, and he pressed it. To your point, he presses it. All right, no more. Next. Now we're going to go off of that. And again, here comes an arm. I got to move off of 75. Really good stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And again, that's someone who really has a good feel for seeing color and being able to run to that open green.
So let's see what they do against San Francisco
Ooh,
on this one here. It's a 2nd and 6.
Yeah. Okay.
So they're going to run to the strength of their formation with the 2 tight ends.
Yeah. And this one's pretty straightforward, but it's kind of similar to what we've seen before, which is, again, him staying true to what the blocks are, making that quick downhill cut. And let's look at the cut. How many? He really doesn't take more than, like, I don't even know if he takes a prep step to a couple of little prep steps to get downhill like that, but it's the dynamic ability of that cut again, and he does it with either leg. He doesn't have an issue.
That acceleration right there, that ability to gain ground. The definitions there are one thing we play around with in the space, yeah. But so where he's at right now versus where he's going to be when he actually decides to go, we're talking about a 2-yard gain here out of this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you look at the combine times and you look at acceleration, I don't think there was much of a difference between Chubb and Barkley. You know, I think it was pretty close, and you get a chance to see why. There are some plays when you watch his acceleration, it looks like he's teleporting.
I do got to give credit to Cleveland on this one. So 72, I know we've had a couple of reps with him, but this reach backside is ridiculous. And then Treader pushing down and coming off. Just watch these two, and giving Chubb a really good read in here of where to go.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
So he widens the gap, 64 here at the center, widening this out, widening a gap, coming back, hitting the linebacker, and letting him cut right off his butt. But again, staying tight. Look where Chubb is in relation to his block. Stays tight.
Yeah.
There's no angles for defenders. It's all arms. It's all arms on him, and he's running through those arms. It doesn't. Now when the third player coming in is when he comes down.
Yeah. Nicely done. Yeah, I love that.
So clearly this was a good game for Cleveland. We got another 4+ run here against San Francisco. 1st and 10 now. And again, the reason we looked at this, it wasn't like we were going to get a bunch of 30-yard explosive plays. That wasn't the purpose of this. It was to help people understand that 4+ yard a success factor in the run game, pretty standard at this point in terms of that terminology, but not something that's achieved easily against stacked boxes. I don't have the numbers in front of me in terms of what the league-wide success rate is against a stacked box like this, but it's not going to be Chubb's. I venture to guess he's going to be easily top 3 in this category.
Yeah, and it's one of those things when people say, they do the analytics on this sometimes, and they'll say, well, you shouldn't run against these stacked boxes. Why are you going to do that? Why are you going to do that? Well, because in these situations, yes, play action works without the run game, but if you can also enforce that you're getting positive gains on this, they're going to react even more so. The defense is going to react even more dramatically to play action if you have a back like Chubb who's able to get gains in situations where the box stat, the box amounts seem to dictate that it's not going to work.
I just want to take a second here with you because I'm watching this combo right here. You have the left tackle, the left guard, and they get enough force on this thing. When they bounce them off, they actually slingshot them around. All right, they're looking to seal him inside, so we get an angle here. But Robinson gets so much; they're actually going to damn near slingshot him inside. And I just want to get your thoughts on Chubb relation to this defender coming through.
Yeah, look at that, and look at the way that he kind of bends around. Look at his upper body. Right there. I mean, it's like maybe a little step there. Just kind of he bends around with his lower body a good bit, actually. It's kind of that nice bend right there. And again, it's that crouch. He runs so low that even though people think, well, he's not running low because his pads are high. It looks like his pads are up. But when you look at the bend in his knees and the flexion that you talk about there, the ankle, all of that, he's practically sitting in a chair, and That's what made Barry Sanders great. That's what made Emmitt Smith great. It makes Saquon Barkley so exciting and a guy that has a chance to become great. You know, these players who can do that, you know, it's just hard. They reduce so much surface area. You're reducing like 3 to 5 inches of surface area when you're doing that. And that's a lot of space in a tight area like this.
So we just highlighted him with his legs out underneath the left side of his core, right? So he gets around that. But here comes the unblocked defender. He's going to split this. You're going to see him come in. And again, Chubb right now has got his legs out underneath him this direction. We're going to pause it here in a second. And he's got everything shifted back over here.
Yes. Good point. Very good point there. And then and that just helps him. I mean, downhill, baby, and just kind of spin through some of that.
I mean, you start talking about the different types of athletes. You're going to find guys that might be labeled as a running back that are going to be very linear athletes. They might be explosive in terms of acceleration, the straight line speed. All those things are there, but you need a runway for those guys. You need to line up a track for those guys to move. This was one of those things that I got flack on my Derrick Henry coming out. I didn't like Derrick's ability to work through some of these situations. You get that guy in a track, it's done. It's right. The drop the pen moment, right? Where Derrick Henry with a runway, it's over.
Yeah.
But some of these scenarios to me were not a forte of his, and an excellent scheme and blocking from Arthur Smith and the Tennessee offensive line has really unlocked him this last year. But these things that I'm seeing from Chubb, this is what I get attracted to in a running back. The ability to string together cuts, the different angles, the contact balance, all these different things that he's stacked together in here, these shouldn't be effective. If we took another runner and plugged him into this, none of these would have qualified as a 4+ yard run.
It's a great point.
That's hyperbolic, but
no, but it's true, because like Derrick Henry and Tevin Coleman, those are guys that I would say that track, if they were tools, they'd be like framing hammers that you need to swing, whereas Nick Chubb's like a nail gun. You know, I mean, you just squeeze the trigger and it's gonna wind up where it needs to be. And you know, in that sense that you don't need a long track to be able to generate that kind of power or pop.
We have a mutual friend, Matt Caraccio, and he's big and uses a terminology that I'm learning about, but the idea of being a problem solver.
Yeah.
And you never quite know. We talked about this with Steve Fairchild when we did quarterback with Phillip Rivers, and a lot of the pockets for Phillip were not particularly good this year. Phillip had to solve a lot of problems with the way he delivered the ball in the pocket. But Nick here has shown us a lot of different ways that he understands the concept. He knows what he's supposed to do. Not everything has come together every play, and it won't. It doesn't. Not every play is going to be perfectly executed by those in front of him. But he's finding ways to get things done. That's really impressive.
Yeah, because think about it this way. We could have looked at a lot of plays where maybe the Browns blocking created situations where he had nowhere to go and he was stopped in the backfield. So imagine Nick Chubb with what we've seen thus far on a Browns team with a scheme and players who are limiting those losses, you know, and now you start to see what his upside potential could possibly be. Yeah, I mean, look at this. We got two guys coming through, you know, those gaps, and it looks like that, you know, with Chubb here, he's going to be heading in that direction because that's where he's getting the exchange. And look at that nice little hop.
But he stays with it.
Yeah.
He's so patient and deliberate with his movements. You're going to see other running backs, even if they see it, right? The guys that can process this. So you got the exchange point. Hopefully he can see through the exchange point and see the unblocked guys. That would be great. We would give a running back good marks for processing and vision with that. But his ability to stay on that, get those guys to fully sync and commit to that angle, and then realize that he's got a double team back here. There's going to be wash moving in this direction. He's got another fold player coming in here. That's where his real opportunity is going to lie.
Yeah. And then be able to go back towards that front side. Like,
yeah, it's the two cuts. He's strung together, boom, boom, two cuts, yeah. Right back and forth.
Yeah. And I like backs who can stay on, like they're saying, you know what, I'm going to cut back, but then I'm going to try and get back into the second level where the play's really going to get blocked downhill and see if I can get a little bit of that action too. See if we can look at it pre-snap again. See, I just want to see if he's looking around a little bit before this. Because I imagine that I think running backs probably disguise. They don't want to just be looking in one direction or the other, because that probably tips off.
I would use my helmet stripes here.
Yeah. And he's keeping them pretty straight there. But he's high.
Might be moving back and forth, but he didn't turn his head.
Yeah, and he's also high. So he's got his pads high so he can kind of see over. He's not squatted down yet. So, he's trying to widen the field and heighten the field of vision that he has to kind of assess what's happening, pre-snap, post-snap.
A lot of condensed formations in this series.
Yeah. Things we're going to see, I have to imagine we're going to see a lot of with the Vikings.
Absolutely.
Over the Vikings offense.
Decides he's going to bounce this. Let's see this from the end. So we have our jet motion across here, pulling the defense out. We got a puller wrapping around.
And he honors that, puller by staying inside the hip all the way until he gets close enough that 50 gets drawn in. And keeps 21 staying in his spot too because of that. And that helps him set up that motion block there too, that motion to the outside, because he honors that inside move. That's something that J.K. Dobbins has to work on, and at times where he can get a little too anxious, and a lot of guys do.
So again, the hips and the eyes of 50 and 21, expecting Chubb to come inside this blocks. Again, this guy's coming inside out. So the defense is expecting him to do that. And Chubb's like, no, we're going to take that outside of there. I got extra support, and now we're in for 6.
Beautiful.
So we've got a 2nd and 7 here. Again, looking at some of these downs and distances. Again, condensed formations, opportunity for run and pass to both be on the table. But Seattle's not all that concerned about the pass with the formation. We got everybody right here. Oof. This is going to be a fun one.
Oh, yeah.
Because this should not work.
Yeah. How many players are on the right side right now? And you see that safety, fly up field, anticipating that snap too. So even though he's far back, he's going to be in on that play. So Chubb has to recognize that probably pre-snap. And then you have that inside leverage right away, with 74, who's going to try and pin him backside a little bit.
Yeah, they're trying to get the back block, but like you said, we got too much penetration here. So we already have disruption. We're going to try to get these guys wrapping around, try to add some extra gaps. And Antonio getting through there is pretty impressive. 75 coming across here. Good for him. Good for him. But now we're hugging in tight.
Yeah.
As a defender, he's right up behind 75 on this.
So he's already taken 2 steps. He isn't trying to cut back yet, even though you could tell with all the orange and brown that he was dealing with when he took that exchange, that there was something downhill for him just a couple steps prior, but he plays it out. And then that nice little, cut downhill.
Everybody's covered.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody gets covered, and now he's going to fight that arm tackle.
Yeah, and look at the nice wide base he gets when the defender reaches in for him.
Accelerates through it. We like to see that right there. He sees the contact coming. Yeah. He doesn't stop and absorb it. He runs through it.
And look at the dip of the inside shoulder at that point. Like right after he gets wide and then turns, he kind of dips the shoulder just a little bit. Gets skinny through that crease, pulling through. And
I don't know how you make this move.
Yeah.
I don't know a human being who just did all of that. Press, cut, attack, vertical, dip, and then boop, stop on a dime, jump, cut, cross face, still stay up, through contact, and fight forward.
Yeah.
How does any of that make sense?
Yeah. There's a play against Auburn I saw of him where he kicks up one of his legs after he has to deliver a jump cut. And like the leg that he landed on, he has to, I don't even remember the combination, but the flexibility, the balance, and what he had to do in succession on a play where he scored. Like you couldn't even see it on the first exposure of the play, but then when you look at it from the red zone view, you're just like, my God, how did he do that?
Really impressive stuff. And again, we already had our drop the pen moment.
Yeah.
But he's giving us more, so we're gonna take it. We're gonna enjoy it. See him take this thing out to the perimeter here. Again, not afraid to run to the boundary. I apologize. He took this to the field.
Again, kind of honors that inside a little bit. He stays tight, even with the push.
You keep bringing this point up, and I appreciate that you do, because Wagner will get over the top here. If he really showed his eyes and flashed that he was taking this outside,
Robinson has no chance. Yeah.
That's the kind of player that Bobby Wagner is in their side. In order to get him blocked, you have to actually get him blocked.
Yeah.
You got to stay and show that you're doing that. And look at this little hesitation there. Look what Wagner does. Again, for everybody watching, watch Wagner here. Completely, when he throws that shoulder in there, completely sells him that he's going in.
And here's the thing, go back to that, because this is also something that works across all types of players. In college football, Nick Chubb probably could not have to give that little dip to the inside and just bounce outside and win this play. Probably does that all the time, just like a wide receiver who runs a route, who can just stick with one foot to the right and then break to the left, and it's no big deal. But the thing is that the best players in the NFL know that defenders are going to anticipate that single movement. So you got to give them that second move to really draw them in, because that's where they've already conditioned themselves. If you're going to plant right, you're going to go left. So you kind of have to give that second little dip or shoulder dip or hesitation, or for a wide receiver, like a hip shift, where you kind of, you actually plant with your left, then rebound off to your right, and then break back to your left to make them miss. And I think that Chubb is a guy who understands, I'm facing men here who anticipate these little moves. I need to throw in a second thing that's believable, because nobody in the NFL bites on the first move. They've got to bite on the second move, when it comes to, that first kind of cut like that.
You can see me rewinding this. I'm fully in love with this last play here. This decision on 1st and 10 to fight upfield. Again, he could have taken it to the sideline, taken a little bit of a hit, probably stayed on his feet. But he's going to get 3 extra yards, at least, looks like maybe 4.
Yeah.
By feeling that leverage and boop, dipping underneath it. And again, the sink gets low, gets under the shoulder. Come on now.
Yeah. Yeah. This is.
Well, thank you for picking Nick Chubb. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, because, man, I mean, I just think the guy's a beast, and he's just a quiet player, and his story is just kind of amazing when you think about the injury that he had, and he's doing this stuff. Everybody thought, oh, he's not going to be, he's a shell of himself athletically. Well, if that's true, then what we were looking at pre-injury is even more amazing. But I think he regained most of what he had.
Again, just acceleration. I think the wide's going to help us explain this point. His ability to stick his foot in the ground and gain yards. Sitting here at the 45 right now, we've got 2 blue shirts, another one falling off inside. And to see him, boom, hit that thing.
Yeah.
And accelerate with that. And I'll go back and play it at full speed. But that right there.
Yeah.
And again, to cut off of that and keep his balance. See what this looks like from the tight. So again, we talk about the bubble. So right now, 75 is uncovered. All right, New England knows what they're doing now. They've got head-up players here, 2-gap techniques, so they can do some things manipulating there. They're obviously a smart defensive club. So this is one thing just to bring up to people here is post-snap adjustments, right? When the defense goes and makes a move. So you're going to have this stunt in because they're going to bring pressure right here, and now all these blocks and the reads off of them all have to adjust on the fly once that maneuver gets made.
Yeah, that's a great point. And the patience there. I mean, you see, again, just a small adjustment with the footwork, kind of keep the base a little wide, a little pitter-patter there just to kind of, you want to keep moving. You want to keep, you know, your position to suck in, yeah, those second-level defenders and keep them thinking, you know, you're heading downhill, you're heading on that track. And then when it's time to be dramatic, he's in a position to be able to take advantage of that with his feet.
He blocks that player by himself.
Yeah.
And gives him a chance to be up on the secondary force player. And almost breaks the thing.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Close.
And it's crazy because it's like, again, it's such a small move. That stiff arm is very effective there in terms of what he's able to do right there and just shove the man down. And like you said, he gets downhill so quickly out of the moves that he makes that he has to work around people, that once you're downhill like that and then you're able to use your hands, you have a leverage advantage.
Oh, just give everybody a little pre-snap here.
Yep.
Got a lot more up here than I can in the back, so that's not boding well.
Yep.
But we're staying with the run, and now we got to try to get yards out of it.
Yeah. And this is what Jonathan Taylor hopes to be doing, you know, in terms of when people watch him, is how he finishes being able to, you know, keep his feet and help a pile push, you know, help the lineman push a pile for him. But, you know, we didn't see much of a pile push on this play, but.
So this is, again, a thing that New England does that we don't see as much in the NFL as we used to. Again, these two-gap techniques, again, heavier alignments on linemen, partly because it's difficult for defenders to actually execute these things well, but secondarily, it's not clean for the running back. Right now, there's no color in the gap. He has to feel how these two blocks manifest in addition to all the players behind it in order to determine optimal strategy here. What's jumping out to you?
Well, I think first, again, he's kind of, you know, that there's that front side that it looks like he's going to want to go to, but he kind of gives a little bit of a nod to that back side to set up his front side block, if that's what I'm looking at correctly there.
Yeah, that downhill track, he's got to stay with that, and again, get all these guys better position.
Yeah.
Because the key to this is this block has to happen.
Yeah. And you see him look. He even looks off that defender a little bit. He looks off number 23 and kind of gets him, you know, sucked into that. But I don't think 23 is really even much of a factor on this play, really, to begin at this point. But he's trying to make sure that he presses as much as he can to that side so that he can make the most out of that play. And that's just the whole thing about, you know, we talk about time and time again about patience, but it's just a matter of trust. You know, it's not even just about trusting your blockers. It's just trusting the way the play works.
Yeah.
Because sometimes because you mentioned he's gotten guys blocked with his movement. It's not so much whether or not the blockers were in great position. Sometimes he's moved guys into the way of a blocker. And so if you're doing it right, if you're really pressing hard, you're making you're making the job easier for your teammates.
Because again, the difference to me between processing and vision, he's got his eyes down, right? He's reading these blocks, trying to see what's happening here, but New England does a great job. They are gapped out. Yep. They're doing a really good job. But he has an understanding of what the concept is here to the play side and knows he can take it there.
And look at 52 jump inside when he looks to to that backside where 23 is. As soon as he looks there, 52 is going to jump.
Oh, hell, I hit the pause button here. So right here.
Yep.
And 52 is now moving inside.
Yeah.
And now we're cutting back off him.
Yeah.
Good adjustment by 52, but he still sold him initially.
Exactly. It was enough for him to get positive yards. It was the difference between, basically being in a standoff, at the line of scrimmage and getting some positive play.
He's doing this against the New Englands and the San Franciscos and defenses that we had a lot of affinity for last year based on the way they played in the production numbers.
Absolutely. And this wasn't one of his greatest games because he had some big plays and he fumbled the ball, which is very uncharacteristic of him. But he had 2 fumbles in this game, I believe. And that was a rarity for him.
So they are working with their backup left tackle here. This is not Greg Robinson.
Good point.
He feels that knockback. We've got, I think, Hightower here attacking, so he's going to feel off Bitonio.
And again, this is kind of staying disciplined here where he doesn't self-destruct with the leaky line.
No, in fact, he stretches this guy that gets knocked back. Again,
Yeah.
we're going to have knockback immediately here on the left tackle. But he's going to force that guy to actually continue to move outside.
Yeah.
Move laterally with his track, which keeps him from being in a position to actually get right in.
That's a great point. And that's so true. And it is, again, the confidence to do that. And I think you're right that the confidence comes from understanding the scheme. He understands what's supposed to be happening. And it's not so much that he's making 8 million calculations in his head to do this work. It's just more about understanding that concept of if I maintain my line, I stay patient with what I do, and I'm confident in what I can and can't beat, something's going to open up. It's going to open up, and I'm going to know when it's time for me to make my move.
Again, New England, we got 10 here. So, again, numbers are definitely in Cleveland's favor.
Yes. Bill Belichick is literally saying I could have had Nick Chubb instead of Sony Michel. But I like Sony Michel, but I think Bill Belichick is basically saying with his actions that imagine, all right, that's what I could have had.
Maybe a twinge of regret.
Maybe. I'm sure there are a bunch of teams in round 1 that well, maybe not a bunch, but there's a few teams in round 1 that would have liked to have Nick Chubb in early round 2.
So again, we talk about post-snap movement here. We got a reduction here to the A gap that makes it hard on Treader and knockback that he's got to keep himself off of.
Yeah. And then still stays to that outside shoulder 64 all the way until he just feels like he's hooked that defender. And then that helps with 72 as well. So now he's got a bigger backside cut inside of 72.
So the thing, I mean, this is.
Yeah. It's so good in terms of his ability to.
Evan Stefanski is going to have a lot of fun because you don't have to teach this guy, like you don't have to coach him up. There's not like there's this huge laundry list of things. Well, man, if he'd do this, man, if he'd do that, like it's all there. It's literally just how well you block it, design it.
Yeah, exactly.
This line gets another infusion of players, and then you add this outside zone scheme that Stefanski just spent a year working with Gary Kubiak on.
And we had
a lot of fun.
Yeah, we haven't shown breakaway runs, and that this guy can break away and what he can do in the secondary to make the first man miss. And so we're showing you all the more difficult types of things that he's had to do in terms of reading and moving and creating his own blockers or getting men blocked because of how he creates.
So here's another one. Left tackle's got to come off. They don't get the block like they wanted to. So now instead of leading up, left tackle's going to try to adjust in space, and Nick's going to help just a little bit there. I know the slow-mo here is not doing a great job, but just a little.
Yeah.
bit of a give in there to sink him inside and then come around.
And the lean of the shoulder inside is what does that a lot of times. You see a lot of backs, if they can, even though he doesn't give it like a hard dip, you know, there's a little, and maybe I'm looking into it a little bit, but you see a little bit of a lean there.
Yeah. He gets him to bite inside and fight his way in there.
Yeah. I got to ask you this question because it's just something between folks who watch a lot of tape. Do you ever find yourself seeing things that aren't necessarily there and you have to look again and go, okay, no, I didn't really see that?
Oh, yeah. You know, part of it comes when you start hearing things from other people.
Yes.
He's this, he does this. And you're like, okay, and I'm going to try to block that out. I'm going to try to go objectively test it and verify that that's actually something. But you have to really work on that. You have to keep that front and center, that I'm setting that aside until he proves it to me. I can't roll with somebody else's. My bias is when I hear people that I don't respect start saying things, my head wants to go 180.
Right.
And like, if they love them, I want to hate them.
Right.
And I got, you know, I try to wash that away as best I can and say, listen, letting some third-party analyst keep me from figuring out who this player is the antithesis of me doing my job. So I have to set that aside. That's just the human nature of all this stuff.
It sure is.
So again, we have an opportunity here with a lead block. Not that he's following it, but just something we're talking about, especially with the Minnesota staff coming in with Stefanski. But his work here, keep Derek Wolfe occupied.
Yeah. And I like, you know, I mean, again, he's trying to set up the hint of, he's trying to set up that double team, and he's trying to set up the hint that he may go backside there where the lead blocker went, and then split that double team. And it doesn't quite work at the last minute, so then he decides, let me read the leverage and try and opt out to another area of space here because I have a blocker kind of coming off here. I don't know if he sees that blocker coming off, but I think he understands that that's a double team too that he can take advantage of.
So to get 51 blocked off that combo, to get enough space away from 95 that he can't get an arm on clean, and then fight to move the pile.
Let's look at the ball security on that too. I just want to see something real quick. You can see too, like he kind of has both hands on the ball as if like it's also help. He's kind of deciding which way he's going to hold the ball depending on where he's going to go.
So you're talking right here after the exchange. Yeah. Technically, we got both hands on that ball.
Yeah. And then at the last moment, you see him, switch that ball high and tight. Well, not tight, high, a little loose at the elbow, but not too bad. It's hard to get that elbow cinched in tight. Like, I mean, I can't tell you how many, I don't know how many times I look at running backs every year, and there's maybe one or two who can cinch that elbow tight, even though I have to grade off for it every time.
It is something you aspire to. It may not be available in the marketplace. So
Tiki Barber will forever be known in my generation and of backs who could do that once Tom Coughlin really helped him out there, and the running backs coach, who I probably should credit.
JERALD INGRAM.
Thank you.
That's the joys of working there. JERALD's actually one of our running back instructors.
Well, then get chef's kiss to JERALD for the work that he did there.
So again, his feel for all this flow.
Yeah, and the shoulders are square to it. You know, the shoulders, knees, and hips, they're all saying, that's where I'm heading. Until
now we got a chance for these blocks to come together.
Yeah.
And then he just creates. I mean, now you're just talking about, again, you've used the analogy of being a chef. You've talked about the analogy of making music. At this point, we're not scheming anymore.
Yeah.
All the scheme is done here.
Yeah.
Everybody that's going to be blocked is blocked. And now it's up to him to maximize outside of the blocking.
Right. And here's the thing. People are going to look at this play where he makes that decision right here. And they're going to see just before that decision, if you can take it back one frame right there, they're going to look at this and go, well, why didn't he cut back through this crease? And you can say, well, one, that's a little more difficult than you might expect. And there are players who can do that, and they might beat that safety who's going to be coming across the field within the next frame. you know, where you're going to be able to see that safety come downhill. That safety probably has the angle on him. He might beat that, but what he's doing here is he's taking the safe play. He's trying to get you the maximum, the positive yards that he can, and turn a situation that didn't work out well into a positive gain.
Well, and again, when we do this, again, we act like this angle, this 45-degree down, this top angle that we're looking at is what the running back sees.
Right.
The running back's on the ground, and this absolutely is a gap here. But again, watch what happens. We move a couple frames forward. Look at this unblocked guy with a head of steam. Fire. He sees that.
Yes.
That's why he didn't go there. Because this guy's got a hat on him. This guy's got a hat on him. This guy's got a hat on him. This guy. So he actually goes to this crease where everybody's got a hat on a hat.
Because he knows who he is. He knows he's not Reggie Bush. You know, Reggie Bush might have been able to go back there and maybe beat that safety, but Reggie Bush sometimes didn't know who he was, you know, as a player at times, and he had to learn the limitations that he had. Chubb knows who he is and knows what his limitations are, and we've seen him bounce plays outside that you go, that's interesting that he did that. And then that's a good example of him deciding, I can't do that.
If you haven't watched him, Matt, if you watch our film breakdowns on Deontay Harris, the returner from the Saints from last year, you want to talk about a guy with the decision making, and you're just looking at it, your jaws on the floor the whole time. Those were a fun 2 breakdowns.
Oh, I can't wait. I definitely have to check that out.
It was unreal, the things he did, and there's a lot of credit to the Saints scheme and blocking, but Deontay Harris is unbelievable.
So we get a little motion and a little toss.
Love these concepts. You get so much with them. You get the jet motion, all the zone scheme. You see all the linemen going. And he's got one blocker out here. We got this one guy departing, and the whole scheme's predicated on you got to outrun that guy.
Yep.
All right, I got to bring this back to the wide. I don't think the end zone's going to do us justice on this one.
Yeah. Field side of the play.
Because, again, we've got Trent Murphy unblocked here. You got one guy going up for support, but how fast can he get through there?
And he just makes this first down gain look easy. You know, I mean,
weak side toss and off to the races.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a whole lot of tools in the bag. If we're going to use a golf analogy, is there a club in the bag that you're like, Chubb's missing that one? You know, that's the one club he can't hit.
Yeah, and that's a question, you know, and I would say the answer is no.
Great decision making to fight inside of White there, even though he's going to take on Poyer, he's going to get those sticks done.
I mean, as a rookie, he would occasionally get frustrated, but it was more in the preseason. He occasionally get frustrated maybe in the second half of a game where he's trying to push to make something happen. But you never, I mean, we've watched all this, and you see most of the time it's like he creates in such a subtle way to be able to make things work.
Again, his discipline in these concepts is really impressive.
Yeah. He's teaching tape.
He is teach tape.
Yeah.
He's absolutely teach tape.
Yeah.
He's going to follow Batonio around. He's going to stay downhill. Get everybody to commit. Everyone's blocked up. Now we're accelerating. And I know that the end copy doesn't really do it justice unless you're going to measure the actual hashes. But when he puts his foot in the ground right here, and that burst, that's 5 yards in the blink of an eye.
And I can't emphasize your points about that enough. And you probably do have to watch broadcasts angle or all 22 angle to see it sometimes. But there are plays when you see him put that foot in the ground and accelerate. There are moments you're going to see how he gets past defenders who seem to have a great angle on him.
Here's another one.
Yeah.
Just the number of guys that are measured in the backfield at this play. We got 1, 2, and a third one penetrating right now, which again, I know they're not near him. We definitely have Brown's color in there. Not saying that's not the case, but he has to get out here. That's all acceleration at this point.
And you can tell, I mean, the exception to the rule is when someone wraps him up at the ankles and he falls down. I mean, we've seen him break so many ankle tackles in games.
This line, this wash right here, and he's going to hug so tight to that.
Yeah.
All of it allows him to gain guards. It's not about how far he runs, right? It's how many yards he gains. He could run this thing out here, but that flatter angle doesn't allow him to gain yards.
No.
That angle allows him to gain yards.
Yep. Yeah.
Almost.
And who tackled him? Was it that little chop from the outside, or was it from the inside pursuit? I think it's the inside pursuit.
Push. It's 55 coming out.
Yeah.
And he shoestrings him.
Yeah.
First he pushes him, and Chubb was going to gain his balance, and then while he's gaining his balance, boom, he taps Chubb.
Yeah, he's
again. I would love to see one or two offensive linemen come to this unit. Maybe they can get themselves a tackle in this draft. There's plenty of them. We'll see how that comes together. But this scheme, again, a couple more players. This is gonna be so much fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this for a couple years about him, and it's hyperbole to an extent, but I think it's possible. I honestly think if the Browns do everything that they're capable of doing to give him that front, and Baker Mayfield plays well, we're looking at a back who could be a 2,000-yard back. I mean, I know that's a high mark, but when you just
we've seen that would hold him back. Again,
no,
except for the blocking.
Yeah, because if you give him the blocking where he doesn't even have, imagine if there's like 2 plays a game where he gets massive creases and he's got a good 15-yard downhill head start. We've already seen what happens there. They're 90-yard gains, 98-yard gains, 87-yard gains. If he gets those types of gains every 2 games or once a game,
sure.
Yeah.
Well, and again, they do get good blocking here. We have this sealed. We missed this one. This combo, I marked it up before. This combo's tough.
Yeah.
That's a tough block to come off of here and pick up 98, so they don't get it. Right. So 98's free, right? If 98 gets ahead of steam, if he feels like he has Chubb dead to rights, it should be over here. But again, he keeps him on a vertical line. He keeps him hanging right there. He knows what he's going to do. He's going to split that.
Yeah.
Make one man miss, split 2.
Yeah.
That was Chris Palmer last week.
It's beautiful.
That's me selfishly plugging you guys. Please go watch the Cam Newton breakdown. Where Chris
it's
Palmer.
A good one. Yeah, it's really good. Very educational. Love what he had to say about shoulders. Love what he had to say about reading leverage. It was really
he did a
really fun.
Chris did.
And
come on now.
Yeah.
I mean, some of this stuff just isn't fair. Like, I'm a defensive coach by trade, so I'm going, all right, we got this guy. We're good. We're gapped out. Hargrave's knocking back the center. I'm feeling good about that. Hayward's got the front side done. I mean, everything I can ask for is getting done. Come on now.
And how square he got downhill immediately as soon as he makes that little backside cut.
So, again, we got him right here, guys. I'm going to slow this down just right up this hash.
Yeah.
Fighting through the one arm on the ball, right? Yep. On the ball, which is tough. 2 hands, it powers through that. Stays square, gets out of that, and we're back off the races. Make Minka take you in the open field.
Yep.
Come on now.
And even that didn't look like much of a guarantee.
No.
He looked like about a step away from spinning through that hit on his thigh pad.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. All right, so we get the little weak side play here. You see the fullback moving weak. Oh.
Yeah.
It's well done by a few people on that one.
Yes.
Again, so we got a bubble here. I'm always paying attention to that because it's going to dictate a lot of the decision making. Because that's where he feels it, right? I mean, ultimately, that's what he's doing. But it's this player. Yeah. This player's the hard one because if he falls in, Hayward's strong enough to potentially bubble that and set that edge.
Yes.
But he's got to keep this guy outside and give his man a chance to block that. And by doing all that, that's what keeps that bubble available to him. I'm noticing if it's tackle the ball is basically where it's at. That's your chance of stopping Nick, is maybe grab a face mask, grab the ball, keep him occupied up high.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah, or you're going to get taken for a ride anyway for a little bit.
So now we're into week 12 here against Miami. Again, we picked all these under center plays. We wanted to be, help us project to next year. When we heard Matt's projection, we get a few more pieces. We may have ourselves a 2,000-yard runner.
Low percent, but
all right.
But I definitely think it's one that if it happens, I'm predicting he'd be the one to do it that's currently in the league.
So we got outside leverage here immediately. We're in the gap here. We got a zero technique here, and this is Flores again, a Patriot. Flores is the head coach. Was last year's defensive play caller for the Patriots. We have all that Bill Belichick defense in here. Mm-hmm. So again, Miami's looking gapped out. Now the linebacker is also going to step in here. So we got 4 over 3. There's no way this should work. Give good push on the right guard here. Good job washing this down. Great fight back here by 74. Him hanging on this gives this thing a chance.
Yeah.
And then Nick just taking it vertical. Again, press the line. Get north and south as soon as it opens.
And it's just, again, it just stands out. It's just elegant. That's all it is. It's an elegant combination of understanding the scheme, pressing well, and terrific acceleration.
All right, so against Miami again here, 2nd and 2 play, second quarter. Now they're going to run to the strong side. And this is, we want to see some powerful finish. This is one of those things, again, as we're talking about clubs in the bag. I'm a big golf analogy guy. For a guy that doesn't golf much, I love the analogy. Because, again, Miami does a heck of a job here. This is a really stuffed run that requires the feel for the backside cut and then just the lower body ability to fight.
Yeah. Because 94 comes off here from that backside, and he's going to be able to wrap up right about here.
So right now we're on the 35.
Yeah.
My lines. Shoot, guys. I apologize. 35.
And then he gets hit by a second man. He's able to kind of squeeze through between them to the 32 about?
Yep. 3 more yards.
Yeah.
Through contact on this. So this is not there's not a lot of sex appeal to this run. This is him saying, all right, there's not much here. We got knockback and eyes here. We got another player here. We got free guys here. And we're dead to rights. Let's just maximize what's there.
Yeah. And these are the runs that kept Frank Gore in the league as long as he's been. And these are the runs that why, a guy like CJ Spiller may not have been in the league as long as he could have been as a starter. Because if CJ Spiller could make these types of disciplined runs and have kind of the skill to get yards after contact and read and do what he needed to do, then those big plays that he made would have been the difference for him to really be a consistent starter throughout the years.
No doubt. No doubt. So I highlighted this matchup here because to me, you went about setting an edge. This is about as well done as it gets.
Yeah.
Talk about teach tape. Brandon Thorne, if you're watching this, we're going to put this up teach tape Tuesday here, week 12 against Miami. This is just brutal here on the front side of this play.
Yeah.
And again, you have to feel the backside of this. And again, this is where we talk about understanding concept. This isn't just vision, right? It's not just seeing something. You have to know how this is designed and where you can take this and Where's this player going?
Yeah.
Gets another guy blocked.
Yeah. And it's and he's so smooth at doing it. It just doesn't even look like he's making a big effort, because when you see backs who are making harder cuts, you'll see backs here when they're not reading this well, they're going to jump stop. They're going to make an extra couple of steps longer than he just makes 2 smooth steps downhill. 1, 2 downhill. You're going to see other backs who might stop start, who overrun it and get too far to the outside and before they decide to break back inside, or who or just try and jump inside too quickly, and all of that just looks very natural.
And this is the part of the reason we like these plays for you guys watching this, is to help with the dialogue around a good running back is not going to have necessarily a lot of sexy runs. We've seen some. We've absolutely seen some from him, but a lot of these runs have been just the nuanced things. It's the little detail work that turn nothing into something on a consistent basis. This is a long cut up of plays that should not be good.
Yeah.
Again,
that's exactly it.
Of defenders. Yeah. This should not work. But he's going to press it. He's going to make good decisions. He's going to manipulate defenders. He knows when to cut. He's athletic enough to do it. He's strong. He's physically.
Yep.
And we're going to score touchdowns.
Yeah.
6-yard gain here on 2nd and 5. Or I'm sorry, 5-yard gain here. 2nd and goal.
And you can say what you want about tackling or lack of tackling, but when a running back puts himself in the position to where he can gain yards and he has the advantage, that's the thing you should be thinking about. Not whether the tackle was good or not, but whether or not the running back's in the position he needs to be to gain positive yardage.
I mean, they clearly were not checking out of loaded boxes.
No.
I don't know what that says about Freddie and Baker at this point in the season, but
right.
They were saying we're going to man up against whatever these. I mean, again, look at these counts.
Yeah.
Again, from a defensive perspective, I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
Have all these guys gapped out here.
Yeah.
Now, this is one of those times where they went with him and Kareem.
Yep, and they
up front.
Yep, and they play off of that play with the little pitch out, but hand the dive.
But this is just that nuanced running behind the big guys.
Yeah.
Get low and find space. Look at that fight there to finish.
Yeah, just that lean again. When you're used to leaning and the head's up, when he's leaning, it's not necessarily like it's straight up in the air, but the eyes are forward enough that he can lean forward, because when your head's completely down, your back, the upper part of your back kind of curves and you have no leverage and you go straight down when you're hit on plays like this. But you see consistently, he's able to extend forward on plays. Tevin Coleman and Darren McFadden were good examples of running backs who immediately dropped their head into contact and they just sank like stones in water.
This guy's got 2 guys on his back and he's driving them.
Yeah. Yeah, he acts more like he's a horse with a plow on his back than he does like a stone sinking in the water. Another 2 back look.
Oof.
Yeah.
This looked good.
This is some old school looking stuff right here. That's kind of fun.
Good concept here.
Yeah. Oh yeah, nice block out to 59 there.
Yep, really good work here. Again, you just mentioned this block. This is a tough block back here.
Yes,
and then they're going to bring Hunt up for this and create a path in behind it.
Yeah. And kudos to Kareem Hunt, even though he doesn't necessarily make that block. Little chip right there on 72.
That's a smart play, because if that 72 might own this thing.
Yes. And as a result, that clears the way. I mean, I'm getting flashes of Ernest Biner, leading the way for Kevin Mack and vice versa, back in my day when I was growing up and watching the Browns.
Fandom showing through.
Oh, it is a little bit, but it's like, I'm kind of glad that they've kept Kareem Hunt, and if he can he can get over the fact that he wasn't on a Super Bowl winner, you know, and be a part of this team, man.
Here is just some good blocking.
Yes.
Creating an opportunity here. Because that's a lane we can get a lot of running backs through.
Yes.
So again, this credit goes here to the offensive line and scheme on this one.
Yeah, and you have to be decisive through these types of blocks too, because this is
all him.
Yeah.
Come on now, how do you get hit like that while being wrapped up? Somehow catch your balance and then jump again for yardage.
Yeah, because see, there's guys who get hit like that and they can use that inside leg that's near the hash and kind of displace their weight when they jump so that they can land. But in this case, I mean, still he's able to get more yardage out of that. He couldn't pull the other leg out, but if he would have, that would have been like a Marshawn Lynch or Darren Sproles type of run. Those both guys of varying height and weights who both do that extremely well. And Chubb is the kind of guy that kind of give you a little bit of, I don't know what I kind of call it displacement of your feet or of your legs, where it looks like they're kind of operating independently of each other when you get wrapped like that. And he has a knack for that.
Well, we talk about that with offensive linemen, independent hand use. This guy's got independent leg use.
Yes. Again, I mean,
I got to imagine a few people are going to be finishing this and running to their fantasy team to see if they can get themselves Nick Chubb.
Yeah, probably.
I know I am. I know.
Yeah, probably.
Again, great understanding of the concept, good execution up front. The line's looking a lot better, or that are the Arizona Cardinals here. Front's not very effective. Get a lot better push. 77 here versus 72. There's been a big difference I've noticed down the stretch here.
Yeah. And again, just scraping the back of 74, staying tight. And watch the safety react to that. Because he's staying so tight. Watch the safety really charge in there. I think Chubb was kind of hoping there. He saw that little dip to the outside before he went back inside. I think he stays tight. It's one of those things that he's used to, that if he can stay tight like that to the inside, he hopes that maybe the safety takes too hard of an angle and he can dip outside of him.
Sure.
And that's another way of how you set things up, is that you don't have to be, 3 moves on top of another type of runner. If you stay tight and play the angles well, oh, this is fun. Stay tight and play the angles well, you're going to be able to bait defenders, and one move is going to be all you need.
And it's that, still the analogy playing chess. He's 2 moves ahead.
Yeah.
He already understands the first move, so he can play the second move. Some guys are busy trying to figure out what the first move is.
That's right.
Oh.
Yeah. And again, it's the one-step thing. He didn't react with the jump cut. He just opened up that inside foot, that left foot. Now he left his feet a little bit there, but it wasn't anything wild with what he did.
Now, the heck of a job by Bitonio to get over to Chandler. That's a tough one. And again,
yes.
Chandler wasn't coming clean. No one's saying that. But it's, again, this ability. Look at how he gets his lower body shifted.
Yeah, that hip shift right there, that's a micro movement. That's a perfect example of a micro movement where it's like he arcs the hip, and it's like a little rainbow he's making there out of his body, or a boomerang, in terms of the arc.
And they hit the ground running.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now we're accelerating past people. This guy's built different.
Yes, without a doubt.
This should not be available to him. This shouldn't work.
No. And then he's strong as an ox,
He may have seen a weight room once or twice in his life.
He might have,
Just a little bit.
I think he outlifted Derrick Henry in squats, and Henry was the internet rage, Yeah, he's a strong dude. Press,
always, and cut off it. Look at it. He cheats his eyes a little bit more here than we've seen.
Yeah,
he's peeking backside here, which could give that away to him. We haven't seen that as much before, but his body sells it. He gets the safety looking this way, and then works himself off it. Look at him run into contact.
Yeah, yeah. If you like yards after contact, this is your guy. If I mean, this is, and we haven't really shown a lot of those types of plays,
Nine.
like him.
9 in the box, coming out of the goal, out of the end zone. Can they get those double teams up front?
Yeah.
But we get penetration.
Yep.
We lose it on the tight end here. 93 is pressing in. So now he's got to come out of the end zone. Got to get the ball out. But you got 93 coming in by himself, beating that tight end cross face.
And that same just little open the hip. Don't jump. Just kind of open the hip and accelerate through it.
But look what he does to 36. 36 is in.
Oh, yep, yep.
And now that's not an available hole.
Yeah.
All right, so we brought this section in here, guys, just again to talk about. So this is not Nick Chubb. All right, he didn't get traded to Minnesota last year. The idea was this is his new head coach and offensive system. We're going to see Dalvin running some of these plays, but we just wanted to show some of the stuff. We saw a toss play. It was a weak side toss.
Yeah.
We saw Chubb run a toss play. So just things we wanted to show people that Chubb's going to be doing, and then again talk about the translatable skills.
And go back to that play, because look at the way that Dalvin finishes this play, whereas there's a cut block, I think 75 cuts right there. I mean, there's too much pursuit there, but it made me wonder for a minute, like if Chubb would have set that up to cut it back a little bit more to the inside, but there's too much pursuit to say that would have been possible.
I don't think I would have seen the defender take Chubb down to the ground quite like that. We'll say that.
Yes.
And this is not a bashing Dalvin session. Huge Dalvin fan, but
without a doubt, Cook is terrific.
So we saw those same motions, a little different track here, strong side. But again, you want to talk about pressing a hole. We've certainly seen that from Chubb.
Yeah.
So again, now I will say Chubb would have pressed this longer.
Yes.
Heading up.
Yes. This would have been another 1 to 2 steps.
Cook's taking it up right now. Stefanski's going to really like the discipline of Chubb on these runs.
Yeah. Yeah. He's going to think he died and went to heaven.
Yeah, we saw a lot of things with motion. The fold block here. We saw that whole series before. So, again, Chubb's going to have no problem manipulating those concepts.
Yep.
And, again, this is immediate downhill from Chubb, or we wouldn't have seen that. We would have seen a wider track.
Yeah.
And so that'll be something that'll be interesting to see as Stefanski installs, if we see any changes with some of that stuff. Do you want, this is an opportunity here. Do you want them to be downhill more to keep 55 from pressing?
Yeah.
Get them blocked by that fold. Those are some of the nuanced things we'll have to pay attention to. But again, a lot of things that I think are going to immediately translate over here. And we'll do one more play here, but thoughts from what you're seeing from Minnesota and opportunities for Nick Chubb to execute these concepts.
I mean, I think what you're seeing here. I mean, we saw some similarities already where you're seeing some similar block types. You're going to see the condensed looks, fullbacks out of the backfield, lead blocks with the tight end, and I sense here with some of these plays, it may not be completely fair to Dalvin Cook with some of these exposures we're looking at, but Cook's in a hurry, in compared to Chubb from what you see. And some of those are justified. Some of those you could see, okay, maybe a step or two more, or you could see Chubb maybe maintain a line, a little bit longer, and be, and be able to find his way.
I think we have Madison here. So again, their rookie running back.
And you see he doesn't really even honor that inside at all. Like 59, he could probably give a little bit of a dip to the inside, a little bit of the shoulder to the inside, and maybe help 59 and number 20 there stay inside a little bit longer. But you see 20 already has the angle. And it's, if he gave a little bit of that dip, maybe that freezes 20 just enough that he could get a little bit more.
Absolutely. Again, we're going to see more with the fullback. Obviously, motion's a big part of this system. So weak side lead.
Mm-hmm.
And all things that we've seen from Chubb, not quite with this fullback situation. He was working with tight ends, but similar work.
But this is smooth. He keeps his track, and then he finds that little dip right there. It's not bad.
It's Boone now.
Yeah, Boone, that looks good.
It does. He sees 65, stay behind 30. Good decision to bring that back outside. Minnesota's not hurting for talent in the backfield by any stretch of the imagination.
No way, no how.
Well, I got to say, again, thank you for bringing Nick Chubb to the table in this one. I know I've had a ton of fun talking through him today. I wanted to just kind of get a little more from you on the RSP and your process. I know, obviously, that was something that brought me to you to begin with, the ability to try to objectify a subjectively collected process is my terminology, but I want to hear it in your words.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. You know, I came from a call center background way back in the day where I used to manage about, 25 to 3,500 hours a week of an operation where we had to, really evaluate how people performed. And it's a kind of a higher stress, fast moving environment with big teams. And one of the things that I had to learn over those years was how to evaluate talent and how to find actionable things to help people develop. And then over that time, because I had some success with being able to even compete with internal groups that, we'd compete against our internal clients, and they would have like 120 hours worth of training before they got on the floor to do their work. And they didn't pay us that kind of money. So I had to give them, 4 hours of training before they even got on the floor and then develop them. And when, they started seeing that the quality of work that was being done outdid, that we were on par on production, but we far outpaced them in quality, they wondered what was going on. And a lot of that had to do with learning how to monitor and develop people and really evaluate them and find what were the right points to work with people. So with that, I ended up becoming a quality director and working in an area where we were implementing best practices, and I had to get trained on best practices for evaluating clients. And so a lot of that has to do, how do you ask the question of what's a good thing to ask? How do you score it so that there's not a lot of variation? Because if I have a team of 10 people who are evaluating a group of frontline workers, they could all have a different idea of what we're looking for when it comes to what's good and what's not good, just like in the NFL. So becoming I was a lifelong football fan and I was a fantasy writer early on. And I thought, I really love the draft. I really love evaluating players, at least from a very on the couch perspective as a fan. No, I wasn't a scout and didn't think of myself as a scout, didn't think of anything like that, but thought I could develop a process that would help me learn the game. And then maybe the process, if I do this long enough, might get me competent enough to where maybe I know what I'm talking about. And so I decided I'm going to give myself 7 years. I'm going to start this publication called the Rookie Scouting Portfolio. And I keep it pretty bare bones. It looks like something that came out of an office file, maybe even file 13. But, out of an office file, it's pretty bare bones. It's not, all gussied up in terms of the looks of it, in terms of the design. And it's just straight out information. So I show you my process transparently, just take you through, what my evaluation checklist look like, a glossary that shows you how I define everything, how I score it. And then, and including all of those reports that I do, then I take you through each chapter of the players that I study, which are quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. And I literally go through, here's some draft history recently about these players. Here's some trends that I notice about how offenses or teams are picking players and why they're picking them early or waiting late. Here's some of the production trends that I'm seeing with rookies over the years, over their first 1 to 3 years. And then I get into the nuts and bolts of, here's how I'm ranking players in individual areas. Here's how, here's how they stack up against each other. Here's where they can improve. Here's areas where it's difficult for them to improve. And then I give you all that information in nice, lengthy, narrative-looking profiles that scouting departments probably wouldn't want, because they got to go through, thousands of players. But for fans who want to learn the game and who want to understand what I see, and for me to paint as clear of a picture as possible about the player, I give you anywhere between a page to 4 pages on a player, and then I give you the nitty-gritty, like, what's the answer to the test rankings that I give a players along with tiers, so that you understand that tiers are more important than binary rankings. And then in addition to that, if you're a fantasy player, I do a post-draft analysis to talk about fit. And I do a newsletter that comes with it from June through December that keeps you updated on what I think about the recent classes of rookies and how they're performing in the league. And in addition to, what I'm looking at for the next year in terms of the next class.
It's a hell of a resource. I get one every year. MattWaldmanRSP.com. Please go check it out. We will have the link to that in our description. Thank you, Matt, for joining us this week. I had a ton of fun watching you on this. And again, just to make sure, we also point out the fact that you donate proceeds from the guide, The Darkness to Light. You want to just tell people a little bit about that?
Sure. Thank you. And we'll thank Alex for giving us the tip on that one as well. Queuing that up. I was going, oh, one last thing, but nice, smooth by Dan to get that straightened out. But Darkness to Light is an organization designed to prevent sexual abuse of children through education of, civic groups, corporate, little leagues, teachers, individuals. And then it's also designed to help people understand how to work with kids who've been sexually abused when they report it, so that we don't have the fallout that we've seen with large organizations, because they didn't really understand how to deal with it. And so it's a great organization. I know Ali Rossman is, an advocate with it. I think Heath Miller in the past used to be an advocate with it. So we've got some NFL people that have done that. And certainly the RSP has been given to it since 2012.
So again, just one more feather in your cap, and a piece that's really important. Hopefully you guys, please go check out MattWaldmanRSP.com. Please consider picking up your version and learning about it. Again, I know I use it as a resource when I'm going into my the draft season, and again into fantasy season. Heck of a resource for you there. In the newsletters, he goes through things throughout the year. All of those are pieces you're going to want to check out. Again, have to give a thank you to Telemetry Sports for the ability to make the cut up. Such an amazing tool there. Again, thank you to Game Pass for providing the film free through the end of May. So take advantage of that while we still have it. And please check out the rest of the shows on the channel. And if you liked it, if you learned something, please click like and subscribe, and we'll keep them coming to you.
And if you're new to the Scouting Academy and you're new to Dan's work, you see what Dan knows, you see what Dan does. And I know plenty of raving fans of Dan's work in terms of people who've gone through the classes, ranging from John Owning to Brandon Thorne, Matt Caraccio, who love what Dan does. He's such an awesome resource in this community, and you're going to learn a lot. And the people that he has, lined up who help with the curriculum in addition to that, if you want to learn about this game, whether it's because you want to be a scout and get placed, or whether it's because you just want to learn to become really knowledgeable about the game, this is the place you want to go.
Well, thank you so much. And for those who want to learn more about it, you can see our information below, our different social channels where we put out information. Our website will be linked below, and we look forward to spending some more time with you soon.